apparently the mayor of LA, Karen Bass, who apparently was in Ghana.
Doing what?
Doing what?
Doing what?
Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
Meanwhile, many critics say LA Mayor Karen Bass should have canceled her trip to Ghana before the fires broke out. I mean, if she wanted to go to a foreign land where no one speaks English, she could have stayed in California.
Hi everyone, welcome to I'm a Ghana Observer. Today I wanted to talk about why Ghana seems to be catching flack and stray bullets due to a visit from Karen Bass, the Los Angeles mayor, who was here for the inauguration of our newly elected president, John Mahama. And why is Ghana in the crosshairs of these newscasters? Why are right-wing ignoramuses like Greg Gutfeld spewing nonsense and refer to Ghana as a foreign land where no one knows how to speak English? And the likes of Megyn Kelly just ranting and raving about Ghana. This is just an opportunity for these right-wingers, these Republicans, to spew their nonsense about Africa and black people. And it just reveals some of their implicit biases. They're just being ridiculous. If you don't know something, if you have nothing nice to say, you keep quiet. This is a dog whistle. It's a dog whistle to the likes of people who still believe that Africans live on trees, surrounded by lions, zebras, and the like. So let's dive into the reasons why and how this all came about.
As you know, though, Mayor Karen Bass is in some political hot water over that trip she made to Africa, to Ghana, in the days before the fire broke out, even though warnings had been in effect before she took off for her trip, this diplomatic mission to Ghana there. Remember, those red flag advisory warnings were put in place on Saturday there before her trip, and they broke out, the fires, on Tuesday. She came back from Ghana hurriedly on Tuesday to respond to the wildfires there. She made it back very, very quick, though. The Los Angeles Times has some more reporting about where specifically in Ghana and what specifically she was doing as the fires broke out here. I want to read from the tweet. They say this, that Mayor Bass was at an embassy cocktail party in Ghana as the Palisades fire exploded. Now, I'm reading this report in the LA Times written by Julia Wick. She writes, as the Palisades fire exploded in Los Angeles on January the 7th, Mayor Karen Bass was posing for photos at an embassy cocktail party in Ghana. That's according to pictures posted on social media. By the time she departed the gathering for her flight home, massive plumes of smoke were visible across a wide swath of the city. Now, they write Bass was in the West African nation as part of a Biden administration delegation to the inauguration of Ghanaian President John Dramani Mahama, which she had attended earlier in the day. She traveled abroad on January 4th as the National Weather Service intensified warnings about a coming windstorm and arrived back in LA around 11 in the morning on January 8th, more than 24 hours after the fires ignited. Now, a spokesperson for the mayor said the U.S. ambassador to Ghana hosted the reception for the delegation before the group departed for the United States on a military plane. Now, that same spokesperson told the LA Times Bass spent most of the party making calls in a separate room. You know, though, her decision to leave the city amid the weather warning and the timing of her return have been heavily scrutinized in recent days. She appeared to have been posing for photos at the party just before 8 p.m. Ghanaian time, the day the fire ignited, or just before 12 p.m. in Los Angeles. That's according to a photo posted on social media where a partygoer's watch is visible in the photo. The capital of Ghana, Accra, is 8 hours ahead of Los Angeles. Evacuation orders were issued in the Palisades minutes later. So the LA Times has almost a minute-by-minute TikTok rundown of what Mayor Bass was doing as the fires, the Palisades fire specifically, broke out. So wanted to get that in there as well. We know Mayor Bass is facing a lot of political heat over that trip to Africa.
So my thing is, what's the fuss about? She didn't just up and come of her own volition to Ghana. She was part of a 4-person delegation, including the U.S. ambassador in Ghana. I have pictures of 3 of them, including the U.S. ambassador. However, the 4th person, it was kind of iffy. I couldn't verify whether the picture I found matched the person, the 4th person. So I just decided not to post that. But again, she didn't just up and come here. So what are all these rants and raves about? Just to score some cheap political points. If she had been in LA, could she have stopped the fire? And she got there as soon as possible. So now let's listen to Megyn Kelly going off, being all dramatic about the whole thing. And yes, it was a serious fire. Unfortunately, a lot of people lost their homes, including one Ghanaian lady. And it's sad. It's a sad situation. But what could she have done? And she got back to the U.S. as soon as she could.
Los Angeles, the city of angels, the home of Hollywood glamour, the site of the 2028 Olympics, is telling many of its citizens, just flee, because it does not have the power or the water that they need to stay safe. But the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, is now finally back from Ghana. Joe Biden sent her there for the inaugural. Like, who gives a crap? Why is the LA mayor going to Ghana for some political event? What in the actual F? And let me tell you something. The warnings about these Santa Ana winds being worse than normal and bringing a grave threat were all over the place. You look back at the LA Times now, for days prior to this event, they were jumping up and down saying, this actually could get really bad. And she's over there in Ghana for this ceremonial. What? Why? Get your ass back home. I mean, I realize you sent a couple of tweets, but in this kind of situation, people like to see and hear from their leaders. And you were in Ghana enjoying yourself. The local folks are in Ghana.
You're the mayor of LA. You are in Ghana to attend the inauguration of President John Dramani Mahama. Why?
So annoying and aggravating. With all the derogatory and condescending. Ghana. Why Ghana? Like, seriously? And the irritating part of it is that some of the people who listen to them will actually believe some of the nonsense being spewed. That's the level of ignorance. Why do I say that? Because while in college, I recall, and as I was doing this, it came to my mind. We had to take a non-elective geography class. So, people were there grumpy because you don't have a choice. It's something you have to do. It's not an elective that you get to choose and you're happy to be there. So there were a lot of grumpy, American citizens who don't like to learn about the world. And unfortunately for most of them, it was a Russian professor who didn't give a CRAP. Couldn't care less about their hurt feelings. It wasn't one of those professors who usually coddle. So, come to find out, most of them, when we were given maps of continents to label, most of them, because of the rhetoric they'd heard about Mexico, had no idea that Mexico was part of North America. Like, some were in utter shock. Mexico is part of North America? And that was North America. So you can imagine when we were asked to label the continent of Africa. I mean, there were so many zeros in that class. And for some reason, that came to me when I was getting this thing together. And it's hilarious. So they just sit and spew. I mean, you don't even know where Ghana is located. And yet you're going to talk as though you are some superior being. It's getting old. Let's just put it that way. All this kind of talk is getting old. We over it. And you need to cut it out. And all this nonsensical rhetoric and implicit bias about Africa and Africans, Ghanaians, it has to come to an end. And things have to change. But I just saw this and I said, let me put in my 2 pesos. So folks, I'm going to end it here. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your continued support. As I always say, I really appreciate you all. And for those who haven't subscribed, please do remember to subscribe, like, share, comment, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.